Well, folks, it is official. The indictments have all been unsealed, and now we get to find out what presents are under the wrapping. And as you can see from the headline, Donald Trump and 18 co defendants have been charged with racketeering, among other charges, as it relates to what happened in Georgia in 2020 after the presidential election. But what do these charges mean? Are they even legitimate? What's the long term impact of all this? Well, aren't you glad you stopped by the electronic front porch? Because your friendly neighborhood front porch conservative has a whole lot to say about all this. And hang on, folks, we're going to get into all this in just one second. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your front porch conservative. Step on up to my electronic front porch and let's talk. That great American philosopher Forrest Gump once said, "Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get." And up until last night, that was true in the matter of the indictments surrounding Donald Trump and the defendants in the Georgia election case. Well, now the indictments are unsealed. The world and Donald Trump and the defendants all know what's inside the box of legal chocolates. So let's dig into it, folks, because there is a lot to get to here. We start with NBC News headline: Trump and 18 co defendants charged with racketeering in Georgia 2020 election probe. Charges in the sprawling indictment include racketeering and conspiracy. Article written by Blaine Alexander, Charlie Guile, Catherine Doyle, and Dara Gregorian. Former President Donald Trump and top allies, including his lawyer Rudy Giuliani and his former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and a top former Justice Department official Jeffrey Clark, were indicted Monday on felony charges in connection with efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election results in Georgia. The sweeping 41 count indictment also names lawyers John Eastman, Sidney Powell, Kenneth Chesbrough, Jenna Ellis, and Ray Smith, along with several others. All were charged with violation of Georgia's RICO Act, Racketeering, Influence, and Corruption Act. Indictment was handed up to the judge around 9 p.m. and made public just before 11 p.m. Trump was charged with felony racketeering and numerous conspiracy charges, court filings show. Okay, let's get into this. I'm going to admit, and everyone knew it was coming. Everybody knew Trump was going to be charged. There was going to be an indictment come down in Georgia, but no one knew exactly what. But I got to admit, for me personally, I am surprised that the DA in Fulton County, who we affectionately refer to as Fanny Pack Willis, came up with a RICO charge. Now, that sort of begs the first question: what is RICO? Well, let's take a look. From a website known as legaldictionary.net, we have the following definition. And it goes like this. RICO law. The meaning of RICO law, or Racketeer Influenced and Corruption Act, is that it is a law that allows authorities to punish offenders engaging in criminal activities, particularly racketeering. For example, RICO law punishes crime bosses who order their subordinates to carry out criminal activities for them, which I guess is where Fannie Willis is going with this. Now, what is racketeering, you might ask? Racketeering refers to the operation of a business that causes a problem with the intent to offer a solution to the problem. Now, wait a minute. Is it just me, or does that sound like the whole Democrat Party? But I digress. Anyway, that's a rough idea of what RICO is. Basically, it's a law that said it was originally designed to go after the mobsters. And the irony in all this is Rudy Giuliani, who made his bones taking down mafia bosses in New York City, is being charged with the commission of a crime that he used against the people that he put away years ago. I mean, there's a cruel irony in that, and it's not lost on someone like me. So, to go back to that definition of RICO for a second, let's take a look at it one more time. Racketeering, Influenced, and Corruption Organizations Act that allows authorities to punish offenders engaging in criminal activities, particularly racketeering, which, as is defined, is creating a problem for which you provide a solution. For example, RICO laws punish crime bosses who order their subordinates to carry out criminal activities. Now, as I said, I was personally surprised that old Fanny Pack Willis went for this deal because of all the things, it seems very strange to do this. But when you stop and think about how this indictment's been structured, it's not just Trump she's charging. She's charging Giuliani, the former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, Trump's lawyers, various other subordinates. We're talking 19 different individuals. Basically, what she's trying to do is make the case that Trump is somehow the criminal mastermind or don of the political family, if you want to even go that far with the analogy. And everybody else are his subordinates carrying out his commands and activities, trying to engage in illegal activity. Now, according to what is being reported, Fannie Willis, the DA in Fulton County, is wanting to try all 19 people together and get this done in 6 months. Now, let me say that again. 19 individual people all tried together under RICO and get the trial done and over with in 6 months. We go now, how well is that going to work? Well, we go to Kash Patel, former DOD official under Donald Trump, himself a former federal prosecutor and a defense attorney. I want you to listen to his answer to this question. He was interviewed last night with Mike Davis on Fox News by Trey Gallagher. Listen to this.
The whole concept here is 19 individuals. She wants them all tried together, Cash, and she wants this done within 6 months. What do you take?
That is a constitutional farce and illegality. As a former federal prosecutor and public defender who's defended cases involving 10 and 20 defendants, there's this thing called the blockbuster ruling. If one defendant is using a statement against another defendant in the charged indictment, that case has to be split and tried separately. All 19 can go separately, or there can be a combination of the two. Either way, there is no way under the constitutional rigors of due process to get this to trial.
Okay, there's a lot to go through there. Now, the one thing that Kash Patel brought up, and that is what's called the Bruton Rule. Now, let me bring this up. This goes back to a Supreme Court case in 1968, Bruton versus United States. Basically, what it says is this. The Supreme Court held that a defendant's confrontation clause rights are violated when a non-testifying co-defendant's confession naming the defendant as a participant in the crime is introduced at their joint trial, even if the jury is instructed to consider the confession only against the defendant. Now, that's a lot of legal mumbo-jumbo, but let me try and break this down as best I can. Basically, under the Bruton Rule, let's say you have the exact situation that we're talking about right now. 19 co-defendants in one trial together. If one person brings up something that incriminates another individual, like even inadvertently, let's just say, then the person being incriminated can say, hey, I don't want to be tried with this person. I want a separate trial, which means, in theory, you could take all 19 co-defendants and split them into 19 separate trials, or maybe some salad mixture of combination, like 3 in one trial, 4 in another, 5 in another. However, but the point is, there's the distinct possibility that under judicial rules, that this whole thing about trying these 19 people under a RICO charge can get blown up almost immediately. It wouldn't take much to do it. Now, that's what's being charged. What does it all really mean? Well, we go to the inestimable Joel Pollack of Breitbart, because I want to bring in a couple of articles he's written about this because he's got some really salient comments. Headline: Georgia indictment charges Trump lawyers' aides for speech violations and nationwide conspiracy. The 98-page, 41-count indictment handed down by a Fulton County, Georgia grand jury on Monday evening charges former President Trump, his lawyers, and campaign aides with multiple crimes for a nationwide, keep that word in mind, we're going to get back to that point in a minute, nationwide challenge to the 2020 vote. The indictment was released Monday close to midnight after a rushed grand jury process that took just one day to consider the complicated set of allegations involving 19 defendants, including the president, across a wide array of states and jurisdictions. Getting a little further into the article, the indictment does not fundamentally concern itself with actions taken in Georgia, but describes words and actions taken by the Trump campaign in a variety of other states in their efforts to cast doubt on the controversial 2020 presidential election. The indictment charges several defendants with crimes merely for making statements that argued the 2020 election was stolen. It claims that actions such as holding public hearings in Pennsylvania amounted to acts in furtherance of a illegal conspiracy. Now, lest you think that Joel Pollak is being a little over the top here, you just hold on to that, and I'm going to show you something here in a minute. He's not kidding about this. Fani Willis is literally trying to argue that even contesting the results of the election, not even contesting it in Georgia, we're talking contesting it anywhere else in the country, is tantamount to conspiracy to commit a crime. And if it's done by more than one individual, you've got a RICO case. That's what she's arguing here. That's how insane this woman is in trying to take down Trump. She has let go of all good reason in this and literally is trying to whip up the craziest concocted legal theory I've ever heard of, that just exercising your right to free speech is somehow tantamount to criminal conspiracy. But we read further into the article. Other acts that are referred to as furthering the conspiracy include tweets by then President Trump encouraging people to watch public hearings in which allegations of voting irregularities were being made by Trump's lawyers and witnesses. The indictment also refers to an effort to prepare false electors, what even the New York Times called alternate electors, despite the precedent set by Democrats in the 1960 election on behalf of John Kennedy in the closely contested Hawaii race. Okay, I want to go to one other article by Pollak, and it's entitled 11 Key Facts that come from the charges. Now, I won't read all of this, but there are 2 or 3 of them I want to bring up specifically. Number 7, the indictment claims political statements are acts of furtherance of a conspiracy. The indictment cites ordinary political statements as if they were criminal acts. These include retweets urging people to contact public representatives, criticisms of elected officials, claims that the Constitution allows the vice president to reject the Electoral College votes, and tweets by Trump urging people to watch TV. Number 8, the indictment covers conduct in other states, not just Georgia, but number 11 is the one I want to bring up the most. Neither Stacey Abrams nor Hillary Clinton have been indicted in Georgia for the same or worse actions. Abrams, the losing gubernatorial candidate for Democrats in 2018 and 2022, claimed that her first race had been stolen and worked with Democrats across the country to change voting rules in advance of the 2020 election. Clinton and her acolytes promoted the Russian collusion hoax, conspiring with journalists and prosecutors in an attempt to overturn the 2016 election. Okay, I have a question. Hey, Fani, are you planning on charging Stacey Abrams, Hillary Clinton, Barbara Boxer, Jamie Raskin, or any number of Democrats that have contested elections? Now, come on now. If you're going to sit here and say that Trump's guilty of this, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Because everybody that I just named, and another one just hit me, Hakeem Jeffries. All of the individuals that I've listed have exercised their right to political free speech, and they contested the elections of 2018 in Stacey Abrams' case, 2016 in Hillary Clinton, 2004 with Barbara Boxer. Jamie Raskin helped contest the 2016 election. Hakeem Jeffries, I'm pretty sure, was on the 2016 election. The electors for John Kennedy back in the 1960s, you're going to dig them up literally and figuratively, and bring them into court? You can't have it both ways. There is enormous precedent down through the years where your party, members of your party, have done the very thing you're charging Donald Trump and 18 other individuals with. But it gets even crazier than that, folks. Take a look at this. Remember what I said when I said that Fannie Pack is charging people just for saying that, these elections were stolen, these elections were rigged? Take a look at this. This is from Charlie Kirk's Twitter account. The Georgia indictment says that advocating for robust signature verification is a conspiracy criminal act. On or about the 6th day of December 2020, Donald John Trump caused to be tweeted from Twitter, "Gee, what a surprise. Has anyone informed the so-called Governor Brian Kemp and his puppet Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan that they could easily solve this mess and win signature verification, and a call for a special session? So easy." Here's another one. This is from Viva Fry. You really shouldn't just read the indictment before formulating your opinion. Michigan has nothing to do with Georgia. He's responding to someone else. Except the Georgia indictment is, unbelievably so, incorporating allegations from other states, including Michigan, where we just had recent evidence of voter fraud exposed. This indictment is a steaming pile of judicial dog shit. I don't disagree with him. Read it, reflect on it, and maybe question why you have such strong opinions of guilt. Respectfully submitted. I mean, yeah, if these were actions confined just to the state of Georgia, all right, I'd still disagree with Fannie Willis about this, but all right, at least it's confined to Georgia. But she's literally reaching beyond the borders of the state of Georgia to all over the country and claiming that everywhere Trump and his people went, everywhere they contested the election, is all part of a grand conspiracy, and therefore they're guilty under RICO statutes. This is madness. They're exercising their right to free speech under the First Amendment. And this is absolutely insane. But why do it? Why do it at all? Enter the legendary Harvard professor Alan Dershowitz. He's got an opinion about this. Take a listen to this. You want to know why she's using RICO?
Well, first of all, nobody should take at all seriously the fact that there was a grand jury indictment. It means nothing. It's the prosecutor who indicted. The best evidence of that is that it was on his website before the grand jury even voted. Now, the whole strategy of all these four cases is to get a conviction before the election, even if they're going to lose on appeal. I used to teach my students, many of them future prosecutors, if you bring a RICO case, that increases your chances of winning a trial and losing on appeal.
That's all this is about. Oh, forget about the administration of justice. Forget about upholding the law of Georgia. Forget about all that crap. Fannie, Alvin Bragg, Jack Boot Smith up in D.C., they all want the same thing. Just get it on the record that Trump's guilty of something. Even if we lose later on, we've got him on the record. He's guilty. We can put it in the newspapers. We can smear him with it. We can drag him down. We can make him burn financial resources defending himself against it, etc., and so on. That's all this is about. This has nothing to do with justice. This has nothing to do with the right thing. This has nothing to do with letting the voters decide who should be the next president. If the Democrats have to use lawfare to stop Trump, that is exactly what they're going to do. And they're doing it. In part because the feckless Republican Party is letting him get away with it. But we'll get into that subject later. All right, a few other things to consider here. From Robert Barnes. The Georgia indictment is the most insane yet by the looniest prosecutor yet. Claims, tweets are conspiracies, legal advice is a crime, constitutional law is a criminal act, and demanding officials do their job is criminal solicitation. It is an embarrassment to the state of Georgia. And one more tweet from Mr. Barnes. As the entire Georgia indictment depends on proving Trump's statement that there were more questionable votes counted than the margin of victory, the Georgia case opens the door to the very discovery and court trial on the election of Georgia courts wrongly denied Trump in 2020. Now, let's stop here and pause for just a second. Barnes brings up an excellent point. Fannie Pack doesn't realize what she's done here. Because in order for her case to stick, she has to be able to prove to the court that nothing happened, and therefore everything Trump and his people were doing were false statements trying to overturn the results of a legitimate election. There's just one problem with that. If Trump and his people can show, either in the courtroom or in the court of public opinion, that there were votes that were cast that were not constitutionally permissible, then there's a very strong argument to be made that Trump and everything his people were doing is perfectly permissible under the law. And that wouldn't be the only argument in their favor. There's plenty of others. But if you can blow a hole in the argument that says, hey, this was a perfectly run election in Georgia, we had no problems here, if you can show all kinds of evidence to the contrary, then you've got a real strong case. And Trump may be about to do just that. Take a look at this. From Truth Social. A large, complex, and detailed and irrefutable report on the presidential election fraud which took place in Georgia is almost complete and will be presented by me, this is Donald Trump speaking, at a major news conference at 11 a.m. on Monday of next week in Bedminster, New Jersey. Based on the results of this conclusive report, all charges should be dropped against me and others. There will be a complete exoneration. Okay, Trump's not taking this lying down. His lawyers are doing the work in the court of law. He's doing the work in the court of public opinion. Apparently, he and his people have been working on a report related to Georgia for quite some time, and they're ready to drop this thing. And that's probably one of the best things I think Trump could do right now. Go on offense. Now, what kind of stuff could it show? Well, a couple of last things, and then we'll start to wrap up this video. What kind of problems were there in Georgia? Well, maybe Trump's going to talk about the following. 2,056 felons illegally voted, according to some people. According to some, 66,248 under the age of 18 voted. 2,423 weren't registered at all. 1,043 used a P.O. box, allegedly. 4,926 voted past the regulation date, allegedly. 10,315 died before the election, allegedly. 395 voted in 2 different states, allegedly. 15,700 moved out of state, allegedly. And 40,279 changed counties, allegedly. Ladies and gentlemen, the margin of victory by Joe Biden over Donald Trump wasn't that much. If any one of these or any combination of these together are actually true, then you've got proof that Biden's margin of victory is invalid and Trump should have won the state of Georgia. Now, I said the feckless GOP a few minutes ago. Where are they in all this? Where's the governor who's a Republican? Well, don't expect those white knights to come in and save the day. Listen to this tweet from Brian Kemp, the current governor of Georgia. The 2020 elections in Georgia were not stolen. For nearly 3 years now, anyone with evidence of fraud has failed to come forward under oath and prove anything in a court of law. Our elections in Georgia are secure, accessible, and fair, and will continue to be as long as I am governor. The future of our country is at stake in 2024, and that must be our focus. Sure. Yeah, don't expect the Georgia GOP to come riding in to save the day, because if Trump and his people are able to prove what they're alleging, then the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, the Secretary of State who oversees the election, Brad Raffensperger, and a whole bunch of other people are going to have enormous egg on their face and a hell of a lot of explaining to do. So we're going to keep an eye on this over the next few days, but that's basically what this indictment is all about. A lot of, as Viva Fry said, steaming pile of judicial dog shit. But that's what I think about it. What do you think? As we start to wrap up this video, please do me some favors as always. Number 1, if you are not a subscriber to this channel, please do so. Number 2, please hit the bell for notifications. I want to make sure you're always aware when a new video is coming out. Number 3, please leave a comment below. Number 4, share it around. And number 5, please give me the old thumbs up. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your front porch conservative, and I'll see you next time.